He was drunk. And he cornered me in the editing room.
Cornered you?
Yes. And I backed him off. I told him I was married, and he was embarrassed, and he left.
You must have been really shocked.
I was. Believe me.
But nothing happened. Because nothing could have happened because you're married.
Don, I swear on my mother's life.
You sure you want to do that?
That was a scene from Mad Men where Sal, a closeted gay man, is fired after a male client hits on him. That fictional show takes place in 1963, but the reality in 2009 is that gays are still being discriminated against. Thousands marched on Washington yesterday in protest and to ask Obama to keep his promises to the gay community. Joining me to discuss this are Dan Savage, author and columnist, and Bryan Batt, openly gay actor, designer, and activist. Now, Bryan, welcome to the show. I love the show. I have to tell you, it's so great.
I'm partial to it myself. I really do.
Oh, it's just, I love it. That took place in 1963, that scene, where you would be fired if you were gay, even on Madison Avenue, which is really shocking to me.
Very shocking, and the sad thing is it can happen today. There are laws in many states. Oh, yes.
But not on Madison Avenue.
Oh,
not
on
in
Madison.
the advertising
No, not now. But
they'd have to fire everybody.
But compared to the rest of the country, compared to the rest of the country, Madison Avenue isn't that big of a street.
That's true.
There's a lot of other places where it could happen, and it still does happen, unfortunately. And my character is a very closeted, art director.
And married.
And married,
yeah.
Which unfortunately still happens. We cannot still be ourselves. But it's very telling. It reflects what's happening today.
It's so dangerous to be in that situation because a lot of these men are on what they call the down low, which is dangerous for the wives.
For the wives, the women in their lives, and the men. It's living a lie, and that's not what I was taught. So.
Now, Saturday, President Obama addressed his seemingly slow progress on gay rights. Listen.
My commitment to you is unwavering even as we wrestle with these enormous problems. And while progress may be taking longer than you'd like as a result of all that we face, and that's the truth, do not doubt the direction we are heading and the destination we will reach.
Dan, we know that Obama is trying to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but why is he taking so long? He can just, with a stroke of a pen, get rid of it. What's up?
Do we know that he's trying to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Obama has the authority right now to suspend enforcement of Don't Ask, Don't Tell with the stop-loss order. 78 members of Congress sent him a letter asking him to do just that. And they say that they can't because they're governing a closely divided country. Well, wide majorities of Americans, liberals, Democrats, conservatives, Republicans, weekly churchgoers, support by supermajorities the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Obama faces no political blowback for suspending its enforcement while Congress works on repeal, and he won't do it. The speech on Saturday was great. We've heard it before. We heard it during the campaign. We heard it at the White House earlier this year after gay activists kicked up a fuss about Obama's Defense of Marriage Act.
Yeah.
And we're sick of hearing the speech. We want to see some movement,
well,
some action.
Barney Frank was quoted as saying that all they did was make spots on the grass, that it's a waste of time to go to Washington, especially on the weekend when everybody's away.
Yeah, Barney Frank is a national treasure and one of my heroes. I went to the March on Washington, the Gay March on Washington in 1987. And I made an impression on the grass, and I didn't see my congressman, but it changed me for the rest of my life, and it was extremely empowering. There's a lot of ripples that emerge from a march like that, and it's all over the newspapers today. These issues are being discussed because of the march. You know how the news business works. You need a hook. And we are, with that hook that the march created, we are discussing all these issues again and discussing really, and the gay community is holding Obama and his administration accountable for their inaction by dint of this march. So I disagree with Barney with all due respect.
Well, I was talking to Ms. Napolitano, the Homeland Security lady, today at The View, actually. And she said that he's dragging his feet because he wants it to be right. That he's not going to jump into it and just, well, he wants to do it in the right way. That was her, it was a very vague answer, but that was her answer.
Can I bring up something that Janet Napolitano did herself? There's something called the widow's penalty, where if you marry someone who's an American citizen and you want to emigrate, and your American spouse dies before your marriage is 2 years old, you will be deported. And this is a tremendous, it's really offensive and it's unjust. Janet Napolitano has suspended enforcement of the widow's penalty while Congress works on changing the law.
Now,
so Janet Napolitano apparently has authority that Barack Obama doesn't. That doesn't make any sense.
Isn't she gay?
I've never slept with her.
You haven't. You know what? You know what, guys? Neither have I. So who knows? You also lose your Social Security if your spouse dies, if you're not married. And you're not really allowed, if you go from state to state, to be in the emergency room or in the OR and make decisions if you're not married in a different state. If you're married in Oklahoma, let's say, God, that'll never happen, but let's say, and you get sick in Texas, the partner cannot come in and
you know, there was just a case
That's not good.
There was just a case in Florida where a lesbian had suffered a brain aneurysm when she was in Florida with her female partner and the 3 children that they had raised from birth. They'd been together more than 2 decades, and the hospital barred the woman's partner from her bedside as she died. She died alone in her bed without her children or partner by her side. And they had domestic partnership, they had powers of attorney, all these forms were faxed to the hospital, and the hospital wouldn't let them to their bedside because they weren't legally married, and they said to this woman's face, Florida's an anti-gay state.
Lovely. Isn't that nice?
I see somebody owning the hospital.
Florida, you know, you can't trust a state that's shaped like a penis. So, Bryan, you were raised in a very conservative family.
I would say pretty conservative, New Orleans background.
Why do you think that people are against gay marriage?
I think they just don't understand it. I think people have a hard time wrapping themselves around a concept or something that they just don't understand themselves. It's a very selfish act, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to take time.
People don't understand.
People didn't want women to vote. People didn't want blacks to have the same rights that whites do. But you know what? It's what should happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it does happen eventually. And that's why we supposedly elect officials that do the right thing, not necessarily the most popular thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the most popular thing is not, you know, the
That's
right thing.
right. It's
And
true.
about
Go ahead,
black
Dan.
people on the vote, women on the vote, we're constantly told whenever we're facing sort of momentous social change that if we take this step that the sky is going to fall, and the sky never falls. Women get the vote and the republic endures. Jim Crow is done away with, segregation is done away with, and the republic endures. We should stop paying attention to the people who predict social catastrophe whenever there's civil rights progress, because they are always wrong.
Yes, certainly we don't learn from history. But there is a rift within the gay movement itself, right, Dan, between the younger and the older gays. The younger seem to be much more anxious to get this moving, and the older are like, well, he has a lot on his plate. Am I right?
Well, I'm 45, so I guess I'm officially older, and I'm extremely impatient. There's a lot of people out there, but certainly the younger generation feels entitled to their full civil rights. They're no longer willing to play patty cake and wait. Those were a lot of the people out there in the streets in D.C. this weekend, and they're driving this movement. And the power players and the people behind the scenes and the Hillary Rosens and the Joe Salameses don't speak for those people, and those people are going to make their own voices heard.
God bless.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.